welcome to the Film Garage 208 podcast. My name is Sarah, and this is Daniel.
Hello.
Hello. Today we have with us Madi and Ryley Nelson. They are the owners of Odyssey Athletics here in Idaho Falls. Yes. Is it Idaho Falls technically?
Yeah, Idaho Falls.
Nice, nice. Okay, tell us about what is Odyssey Athletics.
I was going to say, you want to take it away?
We're a competitive cheerleading facility. So we our focus is to train athletes to compete in cheerleading. And then we also offer recreational tumbling services and things like that. But our sole focus is competitive all-star cheer.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Like high energy, just like fast, like.
Yes. Yes. It's
a
like,
lot.
It's a lot.
It's high impact, high energy for a good 2 minutes, 30 seconds. That's all they get. So, yep. And then we train any ages all the way from 3 years old all the way up to, I guess now we have an open team. So
adults.
Yeah.
3 years old. That's really young.
Yeah. Our daughter, she competed last year for the first time at 3 years old.
Oh my gosh.
What does a practice for a 3-year-old look like?
It's like me herding a bunch of little cats around. I'm
sure. Because we've talked about that with our own kid. We're like, we would love for her to do this, but I'm unsure of the mental abilities to focus and do this.
It's funny, like each kid is so different, you know, and some 3-year-olds are like, they get it, and others are like just not quite ready. But we always say, like, as soon as they can like pay attention and kind of follow easy instructions, like they'll be great, you know? So
start them young.
Yeah. And it takes like the way I coach them versus the way I coach our world's team. It's like you have to be a completely different person for the 3 and 4-year-olds. And not everyone likes doing that, but we love it. So
it does take a certain type of person to be like patient.
Yeah.
Very patient.
I have like a few junior coaches. That's like some of my athletes that help me with the team. And they're like, I can't do this. I'm like, you gotta just calm
breathe
down.
through it.
I'm like, they're so little. And so it's definitely not for everyone, but I love it.
It's probably so fun though, if they get anything right.
And like the joy that we feel when they like go out there and do an actual routine, like it's just because they can do it. It's just, we don't get a ton of practice time and they're kind of all over the place, but when it comes down to it, like they always deliver. And
That's really cool.
It's really satisfying to watch them do it too.
It's really crazy to watch how much they actually retain.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we a lot of the times expect a 3-year-old to be a wild cat on the floor. And it's crazy. They actually retain everything that you tell them. Mm-hmm. They listen really good. And then when push comes to shove, they're there and they actually deliver. Cool. So,
and we've got 10 of them. So that's a lot.
That is a lot
compared to some of the other programs that we know and like we competed against this last weekend. And so to get 10 people to do the same thing at 3-4 years old, it's certainly not for the faint of heart.
No.
Yeah.
Like
try herding 10 cats.
Yeah. We were doing those like media day. And like normally when we work with children, it's like you kind of get what you can get.
Yeah.
They took direction so well. I'm like, this is their job. This is what they do.
They understand.
They know how to take direction.
They do great. It's so fun. So all ages, but especially those little ones, they're so much fun.
So when did you guys start your gym here?
So Odyssey this is our 4th season, but the journey of cheer was like long before that.
Okay.
So funny story.
We're going to deep dive.
We're high school. We're high school
back.
sweethearts. And I was
here in town.
Yes, we went to Hillcrest.
Yes. Okay.
I was a competitive gymnast my whole life, and then my parents got divorced, and it was a very expensive sport, and my parents it was getting to the point where separated. You know, it was kind of a lot, and they sat us down. Me and my older sister did it together, and they were like, you know, I think this is going to be your last year of gymnastics. And we're really sorry, but, you know, and I know that decision was not made easily on them. But as a 14-year-old who spent 24 hours a week in my gym, I was like utterly devastated. So I kind of got over that. And then my mom was like, well, why don't you try out for cheer at your high school? Because I was going into my freshman year of high school. And so I was like, okay, you know, here I was like a level 8 gymnast doing crazy things, and then I'm going to go train and try out for my high school cheerleading team. But I was like, you know, I guess it's the closest thing to gymnastics that I can get. So I went ahead and tried out, and it worked out great. And I decided to start cheering. And then I always had eyes for this one. Mm-hmm. We've known each other since the 5th grade. So,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
5th grade.
It's been a long.
And so his mom coached at an all-star gym like we own now. So she was coaching and I was cheering on the sidelines of his football game. Cute. And I was like doing round off handspring fulls and crazy stuff that none of my other peers were doing. Mm-hmm. And Riley's mom up in the crowd is like, what's that girl doing down there, you know? And so, and we had, you know, we were talking at this point and things like that. But then she was like, you need to come cheer for me at the all-star gym that used to be around. And I was like, okay, you know, the more I was like a sponge. I was like, anything I can get, like, let me do it. So I started cheering at the all-star gym and I was doing both. And my whole world just opened up to this part of me that I was like, oh my gosh, even like as a gymnast, what I found in all-star cheer was like nothing I ever found in gymnastics. Yeah. And so, and I was good at gymnastics, but it's a very serious sport. And, you know, it's just cheerleading's a lot different. I was able to like kind of come out of my shell and like become like this other person. And it was a high energy, you know, the competition was like the sole focus, which is what I enjoyed. Yeah. And so then I started to be like, well, high school cheer is kind of silly. And I think it's great for what it is, but for me, it was not what I needed. And so that is how all-star cheer came into my life. Yeah. And then we were dating all through high school. So it was kind of funny that, you know, his mom coached me, we were together and, but really like had she
you
not.
were just all in the same worlds.
Yes. Yeah.
It was intermingling worlds.
And
for
his, you know, you have a whole story in cheer too. So
yeah. So I mean, my backstory going into it, I was considered a gym rat. I grew up in a gym my entire life from the time I was born.
Because your mom had this gym the whole time.
So
she coached.
Yeah, my mom coached at a high school level. Okay. And so when I was born, I basically went to high school cheer. I grew up in high school cheer. I was around it all the time. Yeah. And then she moved to All-Star and started coaching All-Star. And then I was dragged along. I went to the All-Star gym instead of the high school gym. Your sister did cheer. Yep. And so I basically grew up secondhand in cheer. I never actually cheered, but I was around it all the time. So it was second nature to me at that point.
Yeah. No avoiding it.
Yeah. My little sister cheered her entire career, went on to be a world champion. So
that's cool.
It's been a part of us since, I feel like ingrained into my DNA at this point. Yeah. And so she started coaching at an all-star facility. And at about, it had to have been our 2014, our senior year. Oh yeah. That everything kind of
changed.
Everything kind of changed. So everyone's world kind of got flipped around. That all-star program decided to bring in someone from the outside to come in and run the program. And at that point, there was a lot of mixed emotions about it. My mom disagreed with the decision and decided to move on and open her own facility. At that point, that gym was the only gym in the area at that time. And so having another gym is a very real thing.
Good to have options, you know.
Options are always a good thing. Yeah. And so she opened her own gym. She started out with my sister and her friend, basically. Okay. So it was two kids in that facility. And at that point, it was hard. And she grew from the ground up. And
we went on to college.
Yeah, we went to college.
Because everyone was just at the other gym?
Yeah.
And her ideals didn't line up with theirs anymore. And so she's like, well, I'm just going to start my own. And with her experience, she had like 25 years of experience when she started the new gym. It made a lot of sense for her to have her own place she's credible. Anyways. She could do it. And then him and I went off to school and I went and cheered at Boise State and he went and played football at Lewis and Clark in Portland. Yeah. Okay. And so she was kind of here just running her gym. We had kind of moved on and gone and done other things. And then you had a career-ending injury.
Yeah, I actually tore my rotator cuff. And so now I have 6 anchors in my shoulder.
Oh my goodness.
And at that point, I went to college to play football. And at that point, it no longer was an option. Mm-hmm. Injury was just going to happen again and again. And so I decided to stay home. And at that point, try and figure out my life.
How long did you play for?
So I played for 1 season. Okay. And towards the end of the season, I got injured. And then at that point, I had to go into immediate surgery.
Dang.
So I finished up, called it a check box of I did it. I did it. And at that point, trying to move on and figure out what I'm going to do next. So I came back and started coaching as I was figuring everything out. And then in the meantime.
And I was at Boise State. And
were you dating?
Yeah, how was cheering at Boise State? That's probably crazy, huh?
It was literally like, I feel like it's this whole other part of my life that I'm like, wow, I actually was that person at one point. It was so amazing. So many incredible opportunities, like cheering at, bowl games and the NCAA tournament and all.
What bowl games did you get to cheer at?
The Fiesta Bowl was my 1 year. And then.
You were there?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then in the next year, it was the Holiday Bowl.
How was that, being at the Fiesta Bowl?
I mean, like I said, it was just a whole nother part of my life that I'm like, how did that actually happen to me? So it was amazing. My whole time at Boise State was incredible. And we were USA collegiate champions my sophomore year. And I got to help choreograph routines and things like that. I cheered with my sister. So just the whole experience was everything that I ever wanted in cheer. And then we just are injured buddies. I have a horrible issue with my back. So then the doctors were kind of like, it's getting to the point now where you're like risking big, you're like, we're not just like playing with, little things here. It's like we're playing with fire. So they kind of like, they recommended that it was like, it's enough is enough. And I've heard that so many times, but I had an experience that scared me. I like at practice one day I got landed on and, it was just a really scary eye-opening thing for me. And so I was like, okay, maybe I need to also consider.
Are these injuries worth it?
Right. Yes, yeah. And to me at the time in my 21-year-old mind, I was like, how can I not be this person anymore? Which was like
your identity of what
right. It was who I was.
In the DNA.
I was the cheerleader. I was the gymnast. And so then to think about that part of my life being over before I was like, your senior year, you're like preparing for it to be done, where I wasn't at all. And so that was a really hard decision for me to make. But I knew I wanted to have kids, and I knew I didn't want to, the thought of being, paralyzed or something so scary like that. I was like, but me and my parents, we just sat down and we were like, this might be it. And that was really hard for me to make that choice. And I know that like from the outside looking in, people were probably like, why is she doing that? And that was hard for me too, because I was the only one who really knew what I was feeling.
Don't want to have to tell your story to everyone.
Yeah. And so I think it came as a shock to like a lot of people when I decided, but just like, you should have seen x-rays and things on my back. It was just, they were like, I had a whole fractured vertebrae that we didn't even know was like completely detached from where it was supposed to be. I competed at USA Nationals with 5 herniated discs in my lower back. Like it was just too much.
Yeah, that's too much.
And so I then decided I also was going to school just to cheer, which wasn't the greatest financial decision, but I wanted that experience. And then after I considered, okay, is cheer over? What am I doing with my life now? I had to think about that. And I've always been a very entrepreneurial type of person. The thought of like working a 9-to-5 job is like torture to me. And so I knew that whatever I wanted to do, it needed to be something that I created or I did. And so at this point, Ryley was already home, and then I was like, okay, well, if I'm not cheering anymore, I don't want to go to school anymore. And so I decided to go ahead and move home too. And then we both started coaching at his mom's gym. Okay. And that's kind of how the coaching started.
Sure.
Makes sense.
When we were in high school, I coached at the gym that I was cheering at. So we both, between the both of us, like we started when we were like 14, 15 years old. He learned all the ins and outs of tumbling with the tumbling coach that worked there. So he was there. So they're like, why don't you help out?
It's surprising that you never did cheer.
I know.
Right? I mean, at this point, looking back, I definitely am wondering why it never just didn't happen.
I always tell him, I'm like, you could have gone and like cheered at some good school, because boys are few and far between in the industry. So he's like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, at that point, looking back, I definitely missed the opportunity. But I mean, also looking back, and as the whole story continues to pan out, divine timing is a very real thing, and everything has happened for a reason.
Learn a lesson everywhere.
And so, we came back and coached.
We started coaching, and we were like,
we were rolling.
We were doing, we had some great success with our previous program. It was called Idaho Inferno.
Okay.
And
that was your mom's.
That was my mom's program. Yeah.
So his mom kind of took a step back from the coaching, and we kind of stepped into that like main role. Cool. And it worked really well, like between all of us. And it was a great, 5 years?
Yeah.
At Inferno?
It was 5 years. Great 5 years. In that 5 years, at that point, we had grown, doubled numbers, doubled location size. We had huge amounts of success as far as on the national stage.
Yeah.
NCA in Dallas is like one of the biggest competitions in cheer. There's like something like 12,000 athletes that attend that event.
It attracts everyone.
Yeah, it is cheer.
Yeah.
So that was once you guys came back and coached together.
Yeah.
So we were coaching together, at this point. And
so NCA, our senior team took second by like tenths of a point 3 years in a row. We had one national championship title.
The first one in the state of Idaho is still just from Idaho.
That big trophy.
The big one that I showed you.
That was a big trophy.
And that shows like Ryley was his skills and things like that in cheer. There was a discrepancy on the score sheet. And without his like knowledge and expertise of the score sheet, they wouldn't have gotten that national championship. So
interesting.
It was cool to see like all of us. We had another staff member, his mom, and we were all like, what do we do? What do we do? And Riley's like, I got this. And you're able to like go speak with the judges about scoring disagreements and things like that. And so him being able to go in and be like, you guys are wrong here was literally the only reason why they took the national championship, because they gave the points back and they were like, you're right, that's our error.
Yeah, the judge was like, we're wrong.
We're wrong. And they gave us the points back, and then they ended up winning NCA that year. So
how does that work? Because the points are like a visual thing. So do you replay or
in All-Star it's very black and white. You can go into a competition knowing roughly what you're going to score based on how your routine's composed.
Okay.
So on the back end, it's very mathematical and thought out. So if you do
very literal.
Yeah, very literal. It's kind of like gymnastics. So if you do X amount of skills, you should receive X amount of points.
Yeah, right.
And so you can look at it that way. And so basically what happened was the judge gave us a deduction. So they saw something happen and then didn't give us full credit for the skills that were actually performed. And at that point, I knew for a fact that we did do those skills and that in video, they are wrong. So at that point, we went back, we did a full video review. And at that point, they did say, you know what, we are wrong before awards were announced. And so we were able to receive points back, and then come awards time and we got final standings. We won by about 0.2 of a point.
It was crazy.
So with that deduction, we definitely would have taken second again. And then,
and if they would have announced it, you couldn't have gone back.
Yes, correct. At that point, it's done.
We have like a certain time frame where we're able to go, and then once that time passes, they won't speak to you anymore about your scores. So you have to be really on top of it.
Yeah,
sure.
No kidding.
Yeah. So that was cool. And then that same season, we went on, and the teams that we were coaching placed 4th place at the summit. So that is like the championship at the end of the year with everyone in the United States. So all season long, is
that the Florida one?
Yes. So all season long, you're preparing for this event essentially, but you have to receive a bid to be able to participate. So if you go your whole season without receiving a bid, then you can't participate in that last big one of the year.
You didn't get your invite.
You have to qualify.
Yeah.
And so the summit is geared towards levels 5 and under. The world championship, the cheerleading worlds, is for level 6 only. So at this point, we were just competing on a smaller scale. We weren't quite
with
to
Inferno.
The world's level, with Inferno. And so we went on and placed 4th place out of like the whole country.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that was really cool. So a lot of like season highs for us.
How many teams is that?
I think that season there was probably something in that division. There was probably something like 30 teams in that division.
And you had to qualify day 1 to be guaranteed to compete in finals.
4th is really high.
Yeah.
Because these are like top of the best of the best
from the entire country. Yeah. So
we were like feeling good. Like it was a great season 5 at Idaho Inferno was like
a season high.
Yeah. We were like, okay, we're like really starting to get the ball rolling.
Do you think it was YouTube as coaches who are familiar with each other meshing that really like helped it elevate?
So, and like also,
I think overall it was a combination of cohesiveness.
Yeah,
there was a cohesiveness in coaching staff, and
that other gym that I had cheered at when I was a kid had closed at this point. So now we were the only gym in town, and so we had a lot of kids. And always, the more kids you have, the more success you see, because that's just how that works. You know, it's harder.
Strengthen numbers a little bit.
Strengthen numbers for sure. So we had a lot of kids. We had great team structures. We had good staff. We had all of that. And but that same year,
good culture.
Yeah, a good culture. But that same season though, with all those highs, we started to feel a lot of changes. Like, you know, when you feel like change is coming.
I feel like which always happens after you have those years of just really meshing.
Yes.
Because everyone's been together for a while, and you're clicking, and you have like a new set of people. And,
yes.
Yeah.
And so we worked with another lady who, so it was like the four of us, Riley's mom, us, and this other staff member. And we started like hearing like, you know, whisperings and things like that. Energies kind of started to shift, but she was a dear friend, and you know, we kind of thought, there's no way some of these things we're hearing is true. And then our world literally flipped, and we
found out it was all true.
It was all true. And we felt like, I felt so betrayed, just because she was like a dear friend, and I gave her the benefit of the doubt, you know, no way.
I mean, as a staff, we all did. When we heard these things that were coming from not even anyone in the program, they were coming from outside sources. We even approached the staff member saying, hey, this is being talked about. It's being talked about that you're opening another gym months before the end of the season. And flat out, she told us, that is absolutely absurd. That is not true. Mm-hmm. I don't know what they are saying. You know, you're right or die.
Mm-hmm. So just like a lot of reassurance, but then we're torn, because I'm like,
you're being gaslit a little bit here.
Yeah.
And we're having such a good season. Like, what's going on, you know? Mm-hmm. And so that was hard. And then we were at the Summit Championships in Orlando. I was 28 weeks pregnant with Lawyer, my daughter. She's 4 now. And we had just finished weekend, had the best weekend, 4th place. You know, we couldn't have been happier. And it seemed as if like no one was excited. And we were like, what is going on? You know?
Even the cheerleaders, everybody.
Yeah, it was just weird energy from everyone. And we were like,
everyone went radio silent.
Yeah, there was a lot of like and so
because they were probably switching gyms.
So come to find out, we're finishing in Florida. We typically stay a couple days
and
just
do
after
fun, like Disney World and stuff.
And so we were staying there, and we get a message from one of our parents or one of our athletes.
While still in Florida.
We're still in Florida on vacation.
Saying, hey.
Had they left already?
They had left, yes.
Everyone at this point has kind of gone back home. They usually fly back the Monday.
Went home and started conspiring as soon as they left.
Yes.
So we get a message, and it's like, hey, we were just added to this text group, and you guys aren't in
text
this.
Groups. Why? Why are these text groups? The audacity of these people.
Group chat. I know.
You're not in the group chat. What's going on? And then we're like, we don't know what's going on. What is happening? We find out that at this point there was an ice cream social organized.
We laugh now, but
organized with the entire program, all
of our kids,
60 kids that we had.
What the hell?
60 families that we had, and basically was announced that I'm opening this new gym.
And here's why you should come.
Here's why you should come, and how awful these other people are.
And
damn.
It's hard, like the vendetta.
So she planned that while you were there.
Well, and come to find out, like her LLC was filed like in January of that year.
You could have looked it up and known so far ahead. For anyone wondering.
But we gave her the benefit of the doubt, because she was our friend. You can Google it.
Yeah. So we could have found out if we, you know.
But you just trusted her.
Yeah,
we
trusted her. Happen.
Why wouldn't we have?
I loved this person. Like she was such a dear friend.
And she's telling you no and reassuring you.
I thought she
multiple
was a dear
times. Friend. Multiple times we were told no and reassured, and so we.
And you probably never had someone like burn you in that way before.
Oh no, we were 22 years old, so we had never experienced any sort of anything like that.
Like if that were to happen again now, you'd probably check that shit right away.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, now knowing our guards are definitely up in everything that we do now for obvious reasons now. But at that point, the world got flipped upside down. We lost everything. We lost
probably 90% of the athletes.
They actually did it. Yeah. It's almost like, what the hell?
But the hard thing is we were trying to make up ground in 2-3 days to try and salvage this when the work had been going on for months.
Probably 6 months.
She's been in their ears.
It just makes you
wonder
what was being said. Yeah, because for you guys to lead a team to 4th place at Worlds and then for them to just jump ship with someone who has technically no credibility, hasn't even taken a team to anything.
Yeah.
So and she coached alongside us, but you know she was just an extra staff member. You know, it was
which is really, sometimes though how they can connect though, like it
happened.
Like they kind of what is it where you hate the same person together and bond over that.
Yes. Like, and that was a lot of it. Like
maybe she put the thoughts in their head,
Yeah.
There were seeds planted all season long.
She was a mom of an athlete and a coach. So she had like the friendships of all the moms and also had the friendship
and the kids.
But not the responsibility of the business, so she never had to look like the bad guy.
Right. Yes. And so,
never the bad guy.
She would come in and be like, the moms are upset about this. You know, what can we do about this? And then Ryley's mom would be like, okay, let's try and fix this. So she was like the middleman, but we found out like what she was telling them was so different from what she was being told and vice versa.
So all season we were painted as bad guys to the parents.
Yeah.
Sure.
The whole time.
Or even it would come down to like in our group, like our group chats as coaches, you know, where sometimes voice frustrations and things like that. And she would almost like plan the conversations so that we'd say something and then she'd like send what we said to whoever it was talking about.
Yes, there was an agenda the whole season. And so at that point it was, I mean, we were taken completely off guard.
Yeah.
And
we're like trying to get home from Florida to like, our flight doesn't leave for 2 days. We're like, we got to get home. Like, what do we do? You know?
So again, looking back, were able to find out that it was planned months in advance.
Yeah.
The seeds were, looking back, we can see all the seeds that were planted all season long.
Yeah.
And then to add on to the like icing on the cake, our choreographer that we have worked with for 5 years.
Who was a dear friend of Ryley's mom.
Which we bring, I mean, she was going to go to his wedding and like, we definitely we pull choreographers in from outside the area so that we can get the highest experience possible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Come to find out, he met with this coach at that championship. They had dinner together.
He also knew that this was going to happen.
And planned the whole thing with her.
It was
wild.
That
is some drama.
Oh, yeah.
So what?
At this point, we lost everything.
Yeah. Well, and we came home and we tried to, so the season ends in May. Our seasons are year round, basically. So we get home from that last competition, first part of May. Tryouts are like 3 weeks later. So we were ready to start another season in not a very long time. Yeah. And so we knew we had tryouts and we knew a lot of these people were leaving. And it was kind of scary because we were like, well, what are we going to do? You know, you can't keep the doors open if there's not kids on the mat, you know? And so at tryouts, there was like, I mean, we had like 15, 20 kids. And we had like 75 kids to the year prior. Yeah. And so Heather, Ryley's mom, she tried. And, you know, we tried everything we could.
We tried to push through the summer. We went through June a little while. And then it got to the point where she was like, and it's so much toxic energy too was surrounding this because of the situation. Yeah. And so between that and also knowing that she didn't have enough kids to even pay the bills, she just decided to make the call. And that wasn't up to us because we were not owners at this point. We were just working there. Yeah. And so she just came to us and was like, I'm going to move. I'm going to move to Boise and I'm going to close the gym. And so we were like, okay. And at that point, like, there's nothing we can do. You
know, so I was about to have lawyer at this point. And we were about to start a family. And
you had all these plans this whole time.
Yeah.
It's a job. Everything's good.
It was what we did.
And we both worked. We had other jobs that we did like on the side. Okay. so we kind of were like, all right, I guess we're like normal people now, you know, like, and it got taken from us when we weren't ready.
We're going to go do our 9 to 5.
Yeah, we were, like, and have our daughter, and, you know, we expected her to kind of grow up doing this. And so Heather moved away literally within weeks, she was gone. And they sold their house and decided it was
like,
best.
I'm out of here. It's too much.
Yeah, it was poisoned. A lot. People were so mean.
I mean, the messages that we received, like of personal attacks.
That's what's just so messed up. Like, you're there for your kids to play a sport.
Yeah.
It's a youth sport,
and the
right?
hard thing is,
come on.
Ryley and I were kind of caught in the crossfires. The issue that this staff member had was with Riley's mom. And so it was like they were fighting, and we kind of were the ones that ultimately were affected by this whole situation. She moved away. She started her own gym. And then we were just left of like to pick up the pieces is kind of how it felt. Yeah. And so we ended up having our daughter, and, you know, we were like, okay, let's just move on with our life, you know. And there was just this itch of like that we weren't
something.
done. There's just a part of us that was just,
when you're at your 9 to 5 now, you're like, this sucks. Get me out of here.
I'm sitting there like, what is happening?
Yeah. Literally.
And so another friend of ours, she's a dear friend, was feeling the same way. She was involved with the gym. She didn't coach, but she helped a lot with like the back end.
She was aware.
She was like the ultimate team mom. So she was like part of that whole falling out as well. And we had a few people who were going to stay cheering at our gym, but then when they closed, they didn't have anywhere to go. And they were just, so we had this meeting. I vividly remember it. And they were like, what if we started a gym and, you know, you guys coach for us? And so it sparked the idea again of a gym. And then we talked, and I'm like, if we're not coaching for someone else, like if we're going to do this, we're going to do it ourselves. And, and that mom, who was a dear friend of ours, felt the same way. And so we decided to combine forces, the three of us. And that's how Odyssey came to be.
Okay.
And so we started that in 2020. Literally right as the pandemic was hitting was like when we announced. And our friend,
I would not recommend that to anyone. That was
literally,
so
I'm sure.
hard.
I still look back and I'm like, how are we even here? How did we get through that? Anyways,
one bad thing after another.
It seems like it for sure.
Yeah.
And so at this point, the gym had closed in June, and it was now like January, and we decided Odyssey was like going to be a thing.
And then the COVID stuff was like March.
And then COVID stuff started, in March. And so we had our building lined up, and we found a great place, and, you know, things were coming to be. And then we decided to go ahead and like announce.
And that's your current place right now.
Yes, that's where we're at right now. And
which is amazing, by the way.
Thank you.
Such a cool building.
It's really come a long way, but it's perfect for what it needs to be, you know?
Yeah.
And so this third person, who is still a great friend of ours, she had another business venture going on. And so she kind of found herself torn between the two, and then ultimately just was like, this is you guys. Like, I helped get it going, and
you need to do this.
Odyssey is you, and it always has been. And I'm glad that I got to be a part of the beginning. And so she's just been a great person in our life, and, you know, was a huge part of how it started. And so now it's now just the two of ours, but that's kind of how it came to be. And so we always laugh that it's like, it came from like, we're like a phoenix. I know that sounds so cliche.
Yeah, literally.
Literally. I mean,
it literally came from ruins. Like it just utter rubble.
To think back about like, and that's just the surface, you know, that everything that was going on is just like anything that people go through. It's like, looking back, I'm like, how did I even go through that? And how am I even here now after having experienced that?
But in such a better place now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, for sure.
And
right.
I remember talking to my parents when the whole thing was happening, and I was like, I just for some reason feel like it, even though it sucks, like it, for whatever reason, like it was supposed to happen. And I don't know why, and I don't understand.
Or like why it had to happen that way.
Yeah. And now I've joked, and this is just me being funny. I'm like, I feel like I owe her a thank you. Like, thank you for doing that to us, because what I have now because of that is more than I could have ever hoped for myself, for us, and for, you know, it's like turned into and I just think that,
again, divine timing.
I mean, what other scenario would have forced you to?
And we were 23.
On your own.
Yeah.
Like we were
so young
and so scared and had no idea what we were doing.
Yeah.
And people said that too. They were like, they're 20, like 23 years old. Like I'm not taking my kid to their gym. Like it's going to crash and burn, you know? And we just,
and that's tough because that's a hard thing to argue with them. And like,
I was like,
because it's just their perspective.
It's a he said, she said, and there's nothing you can change about that. And so, I mean, moving forward into what we have built, we knew from day one and moving forward is we had to prove ourselves through our training and what we can offer, our work. And that's all we knew we could do it. We just needed some kids to help us show people that. And so season 1, we had 13 kids. 13 kids. And I don't know how on earth we paid our bills that year, but we did. And
13 kids in the same age range?
Total. Yeah, like, total. We had 13 kids.
Is that enough for a team?
Yeah, barely. Barely. They were, Zeus is our world's team now, but Zeus started season 1 too. Okay. And they were a level 4 team, senior level 4. So doing different skills, but Zeus has always been like a constant for us. So, and that team has grown as the gym has grown. So it's been cool to kind of see it. Those kids and the level of our, training and stuff just continue to progress with us. So
for sure.
So how many kids do you have now?
We have 50 competitive athletes now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
So yes, it's grown a lot.
Yeah.
Season 1, we had 13. Season 2, we doubled. So we had about 26 season 2. And then season 3, we grew a little bit. And then
not as much as
we had hoped. And then season 4, now we did another little step in the right direction.
Nice.
So
just growing every year.
Every year, just keep it up. So that's
slant there.
Right.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where did you come up with the name for?
Yeah, the theme.
So that's a good question.
Yeah. So when we were coming up with the name and when we were working our 9 to 5 and we were not really sure what's going on.
We were really doing 2 jobs at that point.
And we knew that we wanted to start something.
But we knew the name was it had to be everything.
We really take pride in everything that we put out and we knew from the get-go, one of our big talk was the name has to mean something.
Something good.
Personal.
Something
it needs to
positive.
be personal. And the logo and everything that we do branding-wise needs to be timeless. So that it can grow with us.
Change it.
Yeah. This is going to be here for 20 years. Yeah. It's got to look great.
It's got to look great later down the road. And so ironically, when you look up the name of the gym that opened, the meaning behind it is very negative.
Okay.
That's funny.
Yeah. So
it's essentially sums it up to like a trader is like what the meaning of the word is.
The definition of the word
is a
Do
trader.
you think they knew that?
And so we knew that
do we want to embody that?
Yes.
Right. I'm I don't want to take on that kind of energy, you know?
Yeah.
So looking at names, we were like, do we, are we going to come up with a name that is, Phoenix? Like what are we wanting this to be? And so we also were knowing that later down the road, as we grow, we don't want to cut ourselves short on our growth. So we need to create a theme or an idea that can grow with us.
Yeah.
And something that's like limitless, it can go in so many different directions. And themes and cheer is like a big thing. Like a lot of well-known gyms have like a really cool theme behind them. And so we knew that we wanted to emulate that same thing. And so as we were thinking of names, we knew we needed to have that theme to back up the name so that we could have it grow with us as well.
So we were playing around with ideas. We were, of course there's programs that are Cheer Athletics is a mega gym that all their team names are cat themed and they just go that direction.
Like a claw, yeah.
So there's lots of different directions, and so we're playing with
cat themed,
like the Panthers and
not like house cats, like the orange cat. Okay.
So they're like cheetahs and panthers, and
that makes more sense.
Yeah, not house cats.
And so their littles are like called itty bitty kitties.
So the team names is like a big thing. So
and so we're playing with ideas, and we're like, do we just go the route of like a general idea, or what do we not see in our industry?
Yeah, we wanted to tap
missing?
into something that wasn't there yet.
And so we're looking at gyms all across the country. We're Googling, we're searching, we're trying to see what's common, and we want to go the opposite direction. Mm-hmm. And at that point we come across like, what about like Greek god themes? Like what, no one's going this route. It's kind of fun. And at this point we knew we wanted athletics to be in what we want to do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We knew that we wanted to be something that attracted both male and females and something that could be very broad. And so athletics, we knew we wanted to be a part of that.
Because like sometimes you hear names like all-star cheer at like, you know, let's say extreme all-star cheer. Like that's like the name of their gym. And I just feel like that has no depth to it, you know?
No.
And so we knew that. And
it's not like a brand.
Yeah.
It's just
like it explains what it is. But
yeah. Or like a lot of time you'll see like the name of the city and then like all stars, you know, like, so, but we were like, no, we want this to be like an image, a brand. And so we've settled on the Greek theme because there's one gym that does one, but they do it in a completely different way than us. And they tap into like a lot of Roman gods and things like that. So we were like, let's go Greek. And so that just kind of got us on like, okay, what sounds good with athletics?
Yeah.
And
we're
writing names down. And I will never forget the day that I looked at him and I said, Odyssey. And he was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, it's an epic journey. That's what it means. An Odyssey is an epic journey.
Yeah.
And he was awesome. Like, that's it. And we were like,
awesome.
That's it. And everything just like fell into place after that. And then when we saw the logo for the first time from our, Ryley used to work with a girl that designed it for us. And I just was like, this is it. Like, this is always what it's meant to be. And if anyone wants to know what an Odyssey is, you look that up and it's an epic journey, which is exactly what this is, you know, and it's Greek and it emulated everything that we wanted. Yeah. And so that was a cool day when we finally were like, that's it. That's
really cool.
Was there another name before that was?
No, nothing like stood out to us.
Yeah, nothing stuck around. We played with a couple ideas and it would
I don't even
sit
remember
on a paper for a little bit,
though.
But nothing sunk in with us until that name came. And I fully believe that you want to play with names and you want to make sure that you have it right and you want to sit with you. And if you keep going back to that, that's definitely where you need to go.
Well,
follow
then,
your gut.
As soon as you know.
Yeah.
It's cool too because like you said, you get so many branches you can use of it.
Yeah.
And it's recognizable names that.
Yeah.
So, and that's, as we were going, we knew.
And they're fun names to say.
Yeah.
Too, so that helps.
We, like branching wise, Poseidon and Zeus, you're able to know what's going on. You're able to like register, and our kids are able to register with what's going on too. So on the surface level, it's really easy for people to recognize and people to understand. Then on the depth level of what we talk about at practice sometimes and what we talk about with our like seniors going on of like, you know, you're a part of Odyssey and we're a part of your journey and we hope that you continue this journey. And like, we're just here, we're a chapter for you.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to have that depth and that culture in our program to be so much more than the surface while still having a recognizable surface. And we knew as we started, we knew this idea and then we started playing with all of the branches that we can go. We came up with our half-year program, which is the demi-elite program, which is
like a demigod,
but
half god.
So it's only half of the year.
So that's kind of cool. No one calls it that, but it's like our half-year team, demi-elite.
So they're not the full gods. They're not our full-year team, but they're our half-year team. We knew that we wanted it to be broad. We didn't want to have the name involved so that one day when we have multiple locations that it can work wherever we want, you know? And we've been approached by a couple different people on a couple different locations. And at this point, we're not there for sure yet, but we want to make sure that our home gym, our main hub is what it needs to be before we do that. Yeah. And so
don't spread yourself too thin.
Really creating that strong image first.
Yeah.
And then branching from that.
For sure.
Yeah. And then like gym colors, like your colors that you get, because we get to choose. You can pick whatever you want for your uniform to look like, all that. And we knew that nobody does just black and white. And so we were like, all right, that's going to be us too. Like we didn't want to be any of the colors that we had been in the past. And we didn't want to make it seem like this was just a branch of Idaho Inferno or anything like that. We wanted it to be like, nope, this is it, black and white, like Odyssey, you know, moving forward. So a lot of the time you don't see just that. And so that's been different too. We really wanted everything to be basically the opposite direction of what everyone else is doing.
And that's cool because you get to literally design and make everything. Like you guys designed your uniforms and stuff too, right?
Yep.
That's really cool.
It's really fun.
It keeps you creative in all aspects. Like literally everything is so creative.
Yeah, so many different reasons to be creative. So
definitely in this industry, it seems like you have to be a little creative in all aspects. Like some days we're a fashion designer, and some days we're a graphic designer, and some days we're
doing taxes,
a dance choreographer, and then some days we're doing taxes. It's definitely crazy.
So yeah.
It's kind of on a different note. The songs that play when you guys perform, it has your team name in it. So do you have to? How do you make that song?
So how it works is we bring the choreographer in and he choreographs the routine, and he gives us like a 46 8 count sheet, which the routines are 46 counts of 8s.
Okay.
And he puts in like all the important notes, like stunt hits on 3. And we give that sheet then to our music producer, and they create the music based on that 8 count sheet. And we also send videos and stuff so they can kind of watch and see what's happening. And then that way, like right when they go up, like a sound effect happens.
Yeah.
So it's a big,
I was
a lot
wondering.
of moving pieces. Yeah.
After filming the last one, I was like, how do they do that?
So if we change anything in the routine, you have to like let your music producer know, and they'll typically like switch it. So it still matches the routine.
And your music producer is not here, right? You have to like outsource that.
Yeah, he's somewhere. I don't know where
he's in California.
California.
Yeah, he's based in California. So he's
great.
He's great to work with. We searched for the best. We wanted someone that not everyone was using just yet, someone that was up and coming. And so we reached out, and at this point he's become a dear friend of ours and is more than willing to help us with
invested
anything.
in the success and all of that.
So it's really cool. Finding our people, finding your tribe, and finding your people that want to stick with you and help you grow your program. So
that's exciting to be able to kind of partner up with that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Good question.
Yeah.
With pricing, how did you settle on what you have?
I'm like, this might be my forte. So cheerleading, all-star cheer in the industry is astronomically expensive. To participate in events, the cost of choreography and all sorts of things. So those prices we don't get to determine, obviously, because we hire those out. The only thing we do get to decide is the quality. So if we want to pay for less and get a lower quality, then, so we always say, we're going to provide you with the best. And so that costs a little extra, And so that's a big thing for us is we knew we didn't want to settle on who we're like sourcing from. And then also the types of competitions we go to are the best of the best. So those are all expensive. And that's something that we had to decide, and our people who decide if they want to cheer with us have to be okay with. Yeah. There's other programs around that offer a cheaper option. But you get a little less and
probably less likely to move on to the next level if that's what your goal is.
You pay for what you get, and that's kind of how we feel about that. So the only thing we don't determine those prices, obviously, but they know coming in that we hire the best in all aspects, and we go to the best competitions. So that costs money, and so we had to make sure that was something we were okay with doing, and we knew that we wanted to be with the best. We got to act like the best. So that kind of determined that part of our pricing, and then also. The other thing we really get to decide is like how much we charge for our training. And so that comes with determining what type of training these kids are going to get, how long are we going to be in the gym, things like that. And also based on the quality and our experience. And so something big for us is that him or I are in charge of every single class that starts in our gym, especially the competitive programs. So if you're paying for a teenager to coach your 4-year-old at another gym, you're paying for me, a level 6 certified world's coach, to coach your 3-year-old at my gym. So that's going to cost a little bit more. But again, like, what are you willing to kind of give into it?
Again, it's the quality that you bring in. Exactly. Yeah. And so if we're bringing in the high quality choreographer at that price, we believe that the training and certification that we've put in is worth something too.
You're credible too.
Yeah, exactly.
Time is money.
Yeah. And so that's been something, we'll hear, oh, well, so-and-so is cheaper than you. And I'm like, well, at so-and-so,
go to these
I'm sure they
competitions
are.
Right. And I'm like, also, let's talk baby bolts, our 4-year-old team. They're like, well, it's cheaper over here. Why are you guys so expensive? And I'm like, well, we're not that much more expensive. But also look at what you get. You know, there's the uniforms are different, the routines are different, the competitions are different. You know, it's easy for people to just look at the dollar sign on the paper, but they don't like see the whole.
They don't
picture.
See the quality of.
It's like you're not comparing products; it's your child's life and their future and their health, and even down to just like safety things.
Right.
And
exactly. Like, and like the way they're treated, and I mean. I would feel more comfortable if I was on the outside and I was comparing to myself. I would want my daughter to spend time with someone who's been doing this their whole life and, you know, is invested in the success of every person in their gym, and not just dropping them off and seeing like a high school teenager coaching my 4-year-old. You know, I feel like I'd rather pay a little bit more and get that experience than any other. And so that's been something for us. We're like, we have to stick to this, you know, we're worth something. And everything that people get from here is top tier and of course we make mistakes and things, you know, but
business learning.
Learning and things like that. But at the end of the day, we're like, no one else does that. And no one else in our industry has someone that owns their gym in charge of every single aspect of their program, essentially. And right now we can do that because we're small. And so that there's like a benefit to, you know, being able to have our fingers and everything. And I know that that's going to change as we continue to grow, but we have the right people in place that we're training to essentially just become an extension of us, to be able to just continue that. And so when it came down to like deciding like how much it costs for training and things like that, all those factors played into
which is hard sometimes, determining what your personal time is worth and what your value is.
It's easy to feel insecure too when someone's like, well, it's only $50 to do tumbling a month over at this place, why are you guys $65? And I'm like, you know, I used to really struggle with that answer, and now I'm able to be like, this is why, and always they're like, okay, like that makes more sense, you know. So it's hard when they just see that dollar, and they don't think about frustrating. The big picture.
They don't see the back end.
I'm sure you guys get that. Yeah.
It's like selling yourself and like what you can offer. And it's
and I mean, it's like almost easier for us in that sense, is like we can have a finished product. Like you're working with kids who are constantly learning. They can have a bad week or a bad day. And like, that's not necessarily on you if they're not performing well or their parents not happy with what's turning out. Like, you know.
And if they're not invested in their own success, I mean, we deal with that all the time. I've met countless kids who aren't going to go on and keep doing this, you know, and they're just like not into it like some kids are. And so then you have a parent who's like, why isn't my kid getting better?
Like,
I'm like, I don't know that they like doing this. And so those conversations are hard. And it's so true, where it's like we have to meet in the middle. And if they're not willing to meet halfway, then it doesn't work.
No.
So
I also feel like it helps. And we've, you know, when we started learning on the pricing and trying to set those prices, it was hard. But as we've grown, being able to explain and communicate clearly with the customer and with the parent and with the athlete of like clear expectations of like, okay, like you want to learn this skill. Typically this takes this much time. So you have to be willing to put in this much time to do this. Don't expect for you to do it in like one day, you know? And so that's definitely helped setting clear expectations to make sure that the customer knows what's going to happen.
This is your part and this is my part. So if you're not fulfilling that,
then like that's not that's
not my
we're
like
showing
that. Like that, like taint your image. If
yeah.
We talk all the time. Like we have every tool in the toolbox. We have every resource from people that we know, what we know too. We have every tool. But if you're not willing to use those tools and take what we're giving you, you can't be mad about your end product. So.
But I mean, I think that honesty is people probably appreciate that.
Yeah. And we've certainly gotten better at like voicing that. Like at the beginning, I'm like, I don't know why it costs this much. I'm sorry. And now I'm able to like be like,
I have to pay my rent.
Yeah. I'm just trying to survive. So it's hard, but
it's intimidating too when people come at you with prices where you're like,
and especially when they have someone to compare to, you know, someone who does essentially the same thing as us, and
on paper.
Yeah, on paper.
Yeah.
But certainly different products. It was hard to get into that role of being able to communicate to them why, but it's gotten so much better. And I think people know now, and they're okay. And this last year we did increase our prices because we knew we had to.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. But when we had our parent meeting where we kind of sit down and discuss pricing at the beginning of the year, I didn't have one person like bat an eye over it, because I feel like we've gotten to the point now where we're like proving ourselves.
It's very precise. Sure. It's very black and white.
And anyone who joins, the moms who've been with us for a while are like, no, like
they see the work you're putting in,
they're
what
like,
the results are.
This is you want to pay for this, you know? So
good.
That's good.
It is. Good. It's been good.
It's really exciting.
Yeah. Have you guys done any collaborations?
You want to talk about Julian at Matt?
Yeah, so we have a couple collaborations.
For us.
For us, collaborations would be more like working with coaches in the area, and or like our music producer, I would consider a collaboration, or our choreographer. Our choreographer travels across the world, and so collaborating with him, I mean, he's coming back this weekend.
He'll be here on Friday.
Yeah, so he's going to come touch on teams, and we're able to send him videos, and he's giving us constant feedback and update.
And become a dear friend of ours too. Yeah. So.
And so at that point, those collaborations benefit us in, friendships, and like they want to grow with our program. You
probably see your potential there. Like, I want to be part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we recently have gotten really close with another gym in Utah that is super successful. They're great.
Been around as long as we've been alive.
Yeah,
so
I mean, they've been around forever. They have a world championship team. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. And so getting really close with their tumbling coach and their staff has been really beneficial to us. And I guess our biggest thing when we're looking for collaborations and looking for people like you guys.
I feel like you guys are a collaboration.
You're a collaboration. I mean, you've helped us a ton with social media and helped with video and
bringing
opening our eyes to things that maybe we aren't thinking about too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is when we're looking for collaborations and looking for those people, is we want to be able to connect with someone that they understand what we're trying to get. And then on the flip side of that, I want to surround myself with someone that's way better at that type of thing than I am. Mm-hmm. If I'm doing the same, or if I'm just as good as that person, I'm not in the right room. Definitely. Mm-hmm. Like, I want to go, I tell my coaching friends all the time, like, I just want to come to a practice and I want to see how you coach, because you're doing better at this than I am. And I want to continue to learn.
Yeah.
And so I want to continually be in that spot of, wait, I want to be with the best coaches in the industry. And you show me how you're talking to these kids.
Yeah.
Show me how you're teaching this skill, because I'd love to learn that. Mm-hmm. And so finding those collaborations with the best of the best is definitely it.
Well, and anyone we introduce to our kids, it's got to be someone who we feel is good and positive and going to benefit their lives.
Sure.
Rather than bringing someone in who's going to be mean to which happens a lot, like choreographers and stuff, just not nice. And, they leave choreography crying and things like that. We never want them to be in that situation.
Yeah.
And so, and we have had those in the past. We've worked with people before who kids didn't want to come back and cheer with us because they knew for 2 days out of the whole season they had to spend with that guy.
Yeah.
And so they're like, I'm not cheering next year because I hate that guy. And so that too, when we bring anyone in to do those types of things with, it's got to be someone that we know is going to benefit the kids' lives how we want them to. Because I mean, those are our kids, and so we're protective over that. And there's a lot of not good people in the industry, and just people who are in it for the wrong reasons.
And you learned your lesson from the past experience.
Based on everything that's happened in the past, we definitely go through everyone and make sure that they're going to be benefiting our culture in the end.
For sure.
So
for the positive.
That's so important. Yeah. So important.
Well, I think it's cool how much pride has been going into all of this. It's really clear that every decision that's being made is because it's a personal representation of you.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool and obvious.
It's really cool.
We take it I'm always like, why are we so deep? And then he's like, but it's us,
means a lot.
Yeah. It's your whole life that you're revolving it around, and it has to be good.
And we feel like Odyssey really is just if you look at it and anyone who knows us, they're like, it's Madi and Ryley.
And when the success is on like you, like in your performance, it's not like you have a product to sell.
Yeah.
It's like every day you have to show up.
And you have to be your best every single day. Yeah. And that's definitely hard. Oh, yeah. And there are days that, you know, whether or not you're feeling good, you're crying, or you have a bad day, you have, you know, an event producer that's been awful to you, been awful to us, and is like, you know, you have those days where you have a parent that's upset about something, or you have something that just didn't work out right and a schedule had to be changed, or whatever it may be. Yeah. You have those days. And for us, learning how to almost compartmentalize that for just a second so that we can make sure that that job still gets done. And the kids, I mean, again, you're there for a youth sport. So like to make sure that the kid and the parents are getting what we promised them at the beginning. And then you can take that home and deal with that at a later date. You know, you don't have to take out all of your bad day on these kids. Oh. They're kids at the end of the day.
This is their life.
And we tell the kids that too, you know, like our older girls, like your boyfriend breaks up with you and you have a bad day, or you failed that test and it's a sucky day. You know, as soon as you walk through these doors, you know, take your backpack off, take a nice deep breath, because you're here to cheer. Yeah. You're here to have fun. And at that point, everything else around you can go away for 2 hours. Yeah. And then you can go back to that and deal with that in a minute, you know?
Yeah. Does it feel that way for you as a coach, that when you're at practice, you can kind of like,
it's funny, like whenever I'm having a bad day, like
it's all worth it when you're doing the coaching. Yeah.
Like we work at home until we go to the gym to coach. And so like one thing after the other is like going wrong. And I'm like, oh, now I have to go coach. And then I get there with the kids, and for whatever reason, I'm like, oh, they make me feel so much better, you know? Yeah. And some days are harder than others, but like when I get to hang out with those littles, or, you know, we get to coach our world team and watch them doing things that I never imagined we'd be doing, I'm like, okay, like it's not that, like this is where I want to be, you know? And so it definitely, I feel like helps so much.
Definitely picks up your day.
Oh yeah.
To see that kid get that skill that they've been working on for weeks now or months now, and they finally did it. And like once they do that and you see that face of like, holy, I just did that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure.
It's great. I bet. Yeah. Especially as like a teenager, like seeing them do the flips, Dan was like, I want to know how to do
I was like, I need to trade them a video to teach me how to do a backflip.
You probably could. Boys have it so easy.
It definitely is like so much easier for boys for some reason. But.
So yeah.
Well, that's really cool. Hearing your story and your background and where you've made it now.
Yeah.
Do you have advice for someone who wants to start their own business? Not a competing gym. Oh, yeah. But
no more gyms.
But starting their own dream, you know?
I feel like I think about that question a lot of like, just keep going. Like, even when you feel like the end is right there in front of you, like just walk around it and keep going. I think that if there's anything that cheer has taught me my whole life is like, if you want something and you keep working hard enough, you're going to get it. And, I say that like my siblings and stuff. I'm like, you just have to keep going, even when you feel like there's no possible way. And we always say like, okay, we'll say when we're having a hard day, I'm like, what's the worst case scenario? Like,
what's the worst thing that could happen right now?
Reality check yourself real quick.
And it's never what is the issue, you know? And so I'm like, it could be worse, you know? And so we try and like keep each other on like, in reality, so that doesn't happen. And I think that's so important for any business is, you know, don't let anyone, like the things that people say about you don't define who you are. And if they're talking about you, at least they're talking about you, and just keep going.
Usually what we've found is those obstacles that come in your way and those things that maybe like feel like the end all be all, like, this just happened, everything's going to crap and like everything's falling apart in front of you. That's usually the moment that most people give up. And you have to like put your foot down and say, you know what, this isn't that bad. I can deal with a whole lot worse and this is going to be fine. Like,
and just like what we went through, looking back now, I'm like, gosh, there were literally days where I vividly remember being like, how do we make this all go away? Like Odyssey. I was like, when we were just starting, I was like, how can we make it so nobody remembers that we did this? Like, we've got to get out of this. How do we get out of this? Yeah. And now I look back and I'm like, but for whatever reason, we kept going. And now look where we are. And so it's like, just, it's always like the door is closed, but whatever's on the other side of that door is like, gonna be so great.
It's like if you had stopped, then maybe what people were thinking about you would have like proven their minds right. But now with your consistency and like what you've done, you're like, oh, maybe they're rethinking themselves and how they acted.
And we are seeing that so much. We get
maybe not, but
I agree.
Not. I feel
like it's true.
Honestly, I feel like it's a snowball effect. Like you push through that first breakthrough and you move on and you survive through that and you get better, and the next one happens and you survive through that and get better, when most people would be done at the obstacle 1 or 2 or 3. And now we're here to today and we're looking at it and we're like, look at that past, look at those crappy days, look at those hard days. We survived those. We can get through this one.
Learn from all of them.
This one's fine. Really those ones were harder than this one. We're good.
It helps you like just be just a better version of you. And now stuff that I deal with on a daily basis 2 years ago I would have been devastated over. And now I'm like, I'm so much better at managing people and all of that. And it's just because we just had to figure it out and keep going. Yeah. So, yeah.
I think it's great advice. Yeah.
That's really great advice.
And we're still figuring it out every day, but.
And I don't think it's going to ever end.
No.
You're always going to do it.
It as long as you want the growth, like it's always going to be there. If you're okay being, complacent and you feel good about where you're at, typically those types of things tend to die down, I think. But if you're trying to trailblaze and like create something new, something that isn't offered here and in your industry or in your market, like you are certainly going to have those days and you just got to be ready for them and just be better yourself so that when they do come, you're ready and able. And that's certainly, I feel like, where we're at right now. So,
yeah, that's great advice. So, where can people find you on the socials so that they can come to your gym and all sign up?
Yes.
Social media is like lifeblood of our business. So, Odyssey Athletics on Instagram. And we have OdysseyAthleticsIF.com is our website. But honestly, Instagram is like our...
is the main hub right now.
The step into our gym, I would say. So.
Okay. And how do people sign up for...
If they're interested, can they come talk to you? And
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're at the gym most evenings. And we love when people pop in and are like, we just wanted to see the place. And so, we're always open to visitors, and you're typically going to get a fun show while you're there. So it's always good to just stop in and meet us. That always helps too. Putting a name to a face and having a conversation is always
helps
good.
A lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Well, awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on our podcast today.
Thanks
for
having us.
It's so great to learn more about you guys.
Yeah.
Make sure and follow and subscribe on the podcast, please, and thank you. And I think that's
it for now. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Perfect.
Thanks,
guys.
everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.